My name is Phillip Bradshaw, and I fought for my children for 5 years in Fort Myers, Florida. The DCF said that my children were beautiful, healthy, and polite, no abuse, no neglect, perfect for adoption. For 5 years, I fought for my children, and I went through two appeals because I was tried twice on the same allegations, violating the law saying you can't be tried twice for the same offense, but I was not the offending parent. On my first appeal, it took 2 years to get to. The judge said, well, the mother's in prison, but the father is able to have the children. You should give the children to the father. But the lower court judge said reverse and remand is vague and subject to interpretation. So no, you can't have visitation and reordering the medication of your son. I fought again, and the second time I went on appeal, they wouldn't hear it. I went all the way to the Supreme Court, and I'm arguing that this is a violation of the 13th Amendment, abolishing slavery. Slavery is when people are treated like cattle. We are being treated like cattle, like the state owns the people. And this is not constitutional. Our children have a right to be with their parents, but instead the states have taken authority to take children and change their birth certificates, change their social security numbers, change their names. They said my children were beautiful, healthy, and polite, and perfect for adoption, and that's just what they did. They took my little ones who went with the flow, they adopted them out, and the older one who fought, they drugged him. And he got returned to his grandparent, his grandmother, because he was 6'1" and at 13 years of age and was hurting people, and he was angry. And so he wasn't worth the liability even for $1,008 a month that the residential treatment were getting for him. And now in the state of Washington, they don't drug children unless they attack their parents. So he's had time to heal from the drugs and medication they get. But what I found out is that more than half the children in foster care are being medicated, drugged. They're drugging children as young as 2 and 3 years old with things like risperidol, which causes scar tissue on the brain. We have major fraud against our Social Security Act monies through Medicaid and through the CAPTA Act funding. It's bankrupting our Social Security, and it's destroying our children and families, making people dysfunctional. So that's why I'm here today. I'm here to inform the public about these things. I have some different briefs. I filed a brief in the federal court demanding prosecution of the state of Florida, but the Department of Justice wasn't interested in $3 billion a year in fraud against. A key time is filed in federal court in exposing fraud against the federal government, against public monies. A key time is filed in the interest of the United States government against corporations that are stealing and fraud federal monies. This key time was filed on behalf of the U.S. Treasury against $3 billion a year in fraud that the state of Florida is stealing by taking children without following federal guidelines, taking children without requiring facts and evidence of abuse or neglect. $3 billion a year in fraud was not sufficient to move the Justice Department to process this key time. But we have a number of families that show that children are being taken without facts of abuse and neglect. There are fictional cases where there's not even a child in the system that the state courts are collecting money on. There are rapists working for the Department of Children and Families that are not being prosecuted, but being paid out of public monies for their efforts in raping women that are on Thorazine. There's massive, gross cases of fraud being committed against our public monies under the Social Security Act, and the United States Department of Justice did not process this claim because they said it was not filed by an attorney, and no attorney was interested in filing it for who knows, God knows what reason. We are here today fighting against racketeering and public corruption. I'm stating my own opinion. It is my view that a union that controls the seat of judgment and both sides of the argument is a violation of antitrust racketeering laws. And we're here demanding constitutional courts of due process. If there's a real case of abuse and neglect, there's facts and evidence supporting allegations. We have courts that don't require facts and abuse and neglect. They're not there on the behalf of upholding the law or protecting the health and welfare of citizens. They're there for the money. And this is the issue why our Social Security is going down under, because the states are bankrupting at the rate of $300 billion a year in fraud our Social Security retirement, when our Social Security money is being paid for out of our sweat, blood, and tears, that we would have a future, retirement, that there be people that fall into the illness will have social support, that they won't starve to death. We are laboring for good, but we're receiving evil. We're paying our money in good faith, but we're receiving evil. We fight and we pay for good, but this is not what we receive. Our Constitution guarantees equal protection under the law, but that's not what we're getting. Our Constitution has abolished slavery, but our children are being enslaved, and their parents are being enslaved, being forced to pay child support after their children are stolen unlawfully. And that's why we're here today. Okay, I want to bring some information to the public domain in case you might be next. There are some things that should be taught in high school about due process. We're being ambushed for lack of knowledge. There's something about when you step in front of a judge and he asks you, you want us to appoint an attorney for you, that you're not being fully informed of the facts. When you say, I don't know what's going on, yes, I need an attorney. I haven't done anything, but I better get someone to help me. You're confessing to the judge, jurisdiction of the court unwittingly. You're submitting to the jurisdiction of the court. You lost an opportunity to ask the question, for what cause do you have me here? What are the charges that you have against me? Who makes the claim? Where's the evidence? If you take the time to ask these questions, barely you take away the judge's immunity if he continues to harass you without cause to step into your life. If there's no evidence supporting allegations against you, and the court has no standing to continue in your life. This is important even if you're in traffic court, but when you're dealing with family court, where your life and the liberty of your family is at stake, it's very important for you to understand these things. So many children are dying in foster care. And property, there's so much that is stolen. People are losing just as much money as they have. If you're poor, it's not that much money. If you got they'll take houses, they'll take bank accounts. We're dealing with the issue. We're calling for accountability. In Family Preservation Festival, we're dealing from the individual responsibility to corporate responsibility to we as a people. We're calling for accountability of judges. I'm asking everyone to contact their congressmen and stand up and do their duty as a congressman, senator, representative to impeach these judges that are found in bad behavior. The law gives us power to remove judges who trample our rights. We are being deprived of our natural human rights. Those rights aren't even enumerated by the Constitution, and as well as those rights that are enumerated by the Constitution as rights of due process of law. We are calling for the abolition of these quasi-judicial administrative hearings called dependency court, because they do not require facts or evidence to take away our life and liberty. And I'm saying life literally because some of these children are dying in foster care. Children are being taken. One girl was beaten, a Florida girl was beaten to death in Pennsylvania. She was part of a prostitution ring. They took foster girls and used them in prostitution, and one was beaten to death.